Good evening, brothers and sisters. I took some time this evening to reflect upon anxiety. Anxiety for some people can be a bit uncomfortable, but they're able to get through it relatively easy. Anxiety for me is something that, when it comes to a spectrum, it can be once in a while, or you could have an anxiety disorder that you experience problems with anxiety every single day. Also, I think anxiety is something that a lot of people say they have when they don't. That they use anxiety and depression, two examples of people who say, I'm depressed or I'm anxious, when really they're not. Maybe they're worried, okay, maybe they're a little bit sad, but anxiety and depression are two clinical terms that actually cause a lot more problems than people realize. And so that's why I wish people wouldn't self-diagnose. It's such a stupid thing to do because you're not educated or knowledgeable like a doctor, a psychiatrist is, or a therapist is. So why not just go to a therapist, have a couple sessions with that person and allow them an opportunity to hear from you, see you, and for them to be able to tell you, hey, I noticed this and this is probably what you have. That's a whole lot easier and better than to self-diagnose, be wrong, and then for you to all of a sudden be stressed and worried and anxious, and just because you're like, oh, I have this diagnosis, even though you don't. So, long story short, guys, please don't self-diagnose. It's such a stupid thing to do. Tonight, I wrote a poem called The Weight I Carry, and this is about how anxiety impacts my day-to-day. I wanted to share it with you because I feel like there's at least a couple people who can relate, and there's at least a couple people who will be like, you know what, I kind of feel the same way. I experience the same things. We're in the same boat. We're in this together. So it's really about letting brothers and sisters know you're not alone in this battle. I've been there. I've gone through it. So I definitely can relate to your struggle. So let's read this. Like I said, it is titled The Weight I Carry. Anxiety is strange. Sometimes it doesn't need a reason. It doesn't need a disaster. It doesn't need something terrible to happen. Sometimes all it takes is one little thought, one text message, one conversation, one unexpected change, one crowded room, one memory from the past, one look from a stranger. Something so simple can suddenly feel like the end of the world. And that's the part people don't always understand. They might say, just calm down. Don't worry about it. It's not that serious. Maybe to them it isn't, but inside my head, that little thing can become enormous. My heart starts beating faster. My chest feels tight. My thoughts start racing. I replay conversations over and over. I start wondering what I said wrong, what someone meant, what might happen next. And before I know it, I'm fighting a battle that nobody else can see. I've spent years fighting battles inside myself. I've struggled with addiction, I've struggled with alcohol, I've struggled with drugs, I've struggled with pornography, and chasing temporary pleasure because I didn't know how to deal with the pain underneath it. I've struggled with relationships, I've experienced heartbreak, I've loved people deeply and watched them walk away. I've struggled with my past, with trauma, with things that happened to me that I wish I could erase. And I've struggled with my own mind. Living with schizophrenia has taught me that sometimes my brain can become a battlefield. There have been moments when reality felt confusing, moments when fear became overwhelming, moments when paranoia made it difficult to trust what I was hearing, seeing, and thinking. And anxiety doesn't exactly make that easier. Sometimes anxiety grabs onto those struggles and turns the volume up. It tells me something bad is coming. It tells me I should be afraid. It tells me people are judging me. It tells me I'm going to fail. It tells me I'm going to lose everything. It tells me I am not good enough. And sometimes I know those thoughts aren't true, But knowing something isn't true doesn't always make the feeling disappear. That's what makes anxiety so exhausting. You can understand something logically and still feel completely terrified emotionally. You can tell yourself, I am okay, and your body responds, no, you're not. You can tell yourself nothing bad is happening, and your mind responds, but what if it does? What if? Two words that can destroy my peace. What if she leaves? What if people don't accept me? What if my symptoms get worse? What if I embarrass myself? What if I can't handle today? What if something happens? What if? Sometimes I wish I could turn my brain off for just a few minutes. Not disappear, not run away from life, just have some peace. Just sit somewhere quiet without analyzing everything. Just breathe without feeling like I have to prepare myself for something terrible. I've had days where getting through the day felt like an accomplishment. Days when getting out of bed was harder than anyone realized. Days when my mind was already exhausted before I even started living. And sometimes I feel guilty about that. I look at other people going through their ordinary lives and wonder why something so simple can be so difficult for me. Why can someone else walk into a crowded place and have fun while I feel overwhelmed? Why can someone else receive a text and simply respond while I stare at my phone wondering what every word means? Why can someone else have a bad day and move on while my mind keeps replaying it long after it is over? I don't always have an answer. I just know that my experience is real, and I'm tired of pretending it isn't. I'm tired of feeling like I have to apologize for struggling. I'm tired of thinking I am a burden because my mind doesn't always cooperate. I'm tired of believing that because I have a mental health struggles, I somehow have less value. I am still a human being. I still have dreams. I still want love. I still want friendship. I still want a future. I still want to laugh. I still want to make memories. I still want to follow God and become a better man. My struggles are part of my story, but they are not the entire story. Anxiety doesn't get to decide who I am. Schizophrenia doesn't get to decide who I am. My addiction doesn't get to decide who I am. My mistakes don't get to decide who I am. My past doesn't get the final word. There are days when anxiety wins a battle. I'll admit that. There are days when I cancel plans. There are days when I isolate myself. There are days when I overthink everything. There are days when I feel completely overwhelmed. But one bad day doesn't mean I have lost. Sometimes victory looks different than people expect. Sometimes victory is getting out of bed. Sometimes victory is taking my medication and doing what I'm supposed to do. Sometimes victory is telling someone, I am struggling today. Sometimes victory is walking away from an old addiction. Sometimes victory is putting down my phone instead of obsessing over someone's response. Sometimes victory is taking a deep breath and reminding myself that I am safe. Sometimes victory is simply making it to the end of the day, and maybe that's enough. Maybe I don't have to conquer everything at once. Maybe I can take life one moment at a time, one breath at a time, one prayer at a time, one day at a time, because I have already survived things I once thought would destroy me. I've walked through darkness. I've experienced pain. I've made mistakes. I've fallen. I've gotten back up. I've cried. I've screamed. I've questioned God. I have begged for peace, and somehow I'm still here. So when anxiety tells me that I can't handle tomorrow, I will remind myself that tomorrow hasn't happened yet. When anxiety tells me that everything is going to fall apart, I will remind myself that I don't have to solve every possible problem today. When anxiety tells me that I'm alone, I will remind myself that there are people who care. And when anxiety tells me that I'm broken beyond repair, I will remind myself I'm still becoming, I'm still healing, I'm still learning, I'm still fighting, I am still living. Maybe anxiety will always be a part of my journey. Maybe there will always be days when something small feels enormous. But I refuse to let anxiety convince me that my life isn't worth living. I refuse to let my worst moments erase my best ones. I refuse to let my diagnosis become my identity. I refuse to let my past steal my future. So tonight, if my mind is racing, I will breathe. If I am scared, I will pray. If I am overwhelmed, I will ask for help. If I fall, I will get back up. And if all I can do today is survive the anxiety, then I will call that a victory. Because sometimes the strongest thing a person can say isn't, I am fine. Sometimes it is, I'm struggling, but I am still here. And today, I am still here. So that's what I wrote about anxiety, brothers and sisters, at least what I struggle with when it comes to being anxious. A lot of it has to do with being anxious about, will people like me? Will people accept me? Will people be friendly to me? Will they allow me to get to know them and them get to know me? A lot of my anxiety has to do with what ifs, has to do with the things that I'm not sure about, the things that I cannot prepare myself for. So anxiety, at least for my struggle, is often things I can't control. When I can't control a situation, then I get anxious. But I just wanted to share this with you because I think it's important that we talk about anxiety and how there's a lot of people who struggle, and there's a lot of brothers and sisters who are struggling with anxiety, and we need to be loving, we need to be warm, we need to be receptive, we need to be comforting, and show these brothers and sisters that it's okay if you struggle with it. We're here for you, and we're here to help carry your burdens. We're here to support you, so you're not alone. But that's about it, guys. I just want to say thank you for spending some time with me and for listening to this poem, and I appreciate all your guys' love and support. So thank you guys so much. God bless. Peace.